Today's video begins with a soft fade in from black as the familiar musical swell rises. The camera glides over a dimly lit stage, empty at first, with a single spotlight glowing at the center. Then, as the music intensifies, the narration begins. Welcome back to the channel everyone. You're watching one of the most surprising, most inspiring, and most emotional countdowns we've ever made. Today, we're diving into the unbelievable world of talent that refuses to fade with age. These are the performers who stood on the biggest stages in the world, not at the beginning of their lives, but long after the world assumed their prime had passed. This is the celebration of people who prove that passion does not retire, that dreams don't expire, and that courage can arrive at any age. Today, we're talking about the oldest contestants ever to stun on Got Talent. The music shifts, and the camera cuts to the roaring audience of a packed theater. The judges lean forward, the lights shimmer, and the first contestant of the video walks slowly onto the stage. A frail figure, supported by a cane, but with eyes that sparkle like they hold 1,000 stories. The crowd instantly softens into silence. The judge asks kindly, "Who do we have the pleasure of meeting today?" The contestant smiles and introduces herself. 87 years old. Born before the world had color television. A time traveler who has lived through more eras than anyone on that stage. And she's here to sing, not because she wants fame, but because singing is the only thing that ever made her feel young. When the music begins, her voice cracks for a moment, but then, like a miracle, it blooms into a rich, trembling tone full of warmth and history. The audience gasps. The judges lean back, stunned. The kind of stunned that makes them forget to blink. Her voice fills the room with a softness that silences the restless. By the time she reaches the final note, the audience is on its feet, cheering for someone who reminded them that age is not a cage. Age is a storybook. The next scene opens with a bright burst of stage lights, revealing an old man in a tuxedo too big for him. He walks with deliberate steps, each foot carefully placed like he's counting memories. He is 92, a magician. The oldest magician ever to perform on any version of Got Talent. The judges look at him skeptically. Magic is a young person's game, filled with speed, misdirection, sleight of hand. Can a man with trembling fingers and slow movement possibly pull off anything convincing? He begins by placing a deck of cards on the table. Slowly, gently, he asks the judge to pick one. The judge does. He shuffles with surprising elegance. Then he smiles, taps the deck twice, and suddenly, the selected card appears not in the deck, not in his pocket, but floating, slowly, gently, impossibly above his palm. The audience screams. The judges jump from their seats. This is not luck. This is not nostalgia. This is mastery earned over almost a century. Decades of practice. Decades of love for the craft. The magician bows deeply, and the theater roars like he's a rock star. We cut to another stage, another moment, another miracle. A group of 4 dancers walks on stage. But not young dancers with springy knees and endless energy. These dancers are seniors. The youngest is 71. The oldest is 90. They call themselves the Golden Steps. Their families begged them not to audition. They were afraid someone would fall, or twist something, or collapse under the pressure. But the group insisted. They had trained for months. They had practiced through aches that would make younger performers quit. They are there for one reason, because dance makes them feel alive. The music blasts through the arena and suddenly the 4 seniors explode into movement, perfectly synchronized footwork, astonishing spins, and a rhythm that sends the audience into shock. The judges cover their mouths. The audience rises to their feet before the performance even ends. When the final pose hits, the crowd screams like they've just witnessed history. In a way, they have. Because the Golden Steps prove something profound. Passion keeps the body younger than medicine ever could. Next, the camera fades into the story of a man who became a legend before he even finished his audition. His name is Samuel, 91 years old, a war veteran, a man whose spine is curved, whose hands shake when he holds a microphone. But when he starts speaking, the theater falls silent. He says he has come to tell a story. Not through words, but through poetry. Poetry he has written for his late wife, who passed just months before the audition. Poetry that he has carried inside his heart like an unopened letter. When he begins reciting, his voice quivers softly, but his words are strong. They paint pictures of young love, of long nights, of laughter, of time passing too quickly. The audience begins to cry quietly, then openly. Even the judges wipe away tears. When he finishes, there is a moment of silence, deep, painful, beautiful silence, before the entire arena erupts into applause. The performance becomes one of the most emotional moments in the show's history. Age has not dulled Samuel's love. It has sharpened it. Now the scene shifts to something entirely different. A 93-year-old breakdancer steps onto the stage. Yes, breakdancer. When he mentions his age, the audience laughs. The judges smile politely, assuming this will be a charming, sweet, maybe slightly funny performance. But when the music drops and he suddenly drops into a spinning floor move, the entire crowd collectively loses its mind. They scream louder with every move, windmills, back rocks, footwork clean enough to rival dancers 60 years younger. By the end, the audience is chanting his name like he's a superstar athlete in his prime. It becomes one of the most watched auditions ever. The camera transitions to a soft, warm scene on stage. A woman named Eleanor, 86 years old, walks with a ukulele decorated with faded stickers. She smiles shyly. She has never performed in front of more than 10 people in her life. But today, she stands in front of thousands. She begins strumming a simple tune, her voice gentle and pure. She sings about childhood, about innocence, about memories that stay even when the body grows old. Everyone in the room feels it. It's not the best vocal in the world, but it is one of the most honest. One judge tells her, "You just reminded everyone here of something they forgot they needed." And it's true. Her performance feels like a hug. Next, the camera cuts to a man in a wheelchair. 78 years old, paralyzed from the waist down. But he is here for a reason that shocks everyone. He is here to do stand-up comedy. Comedy about his life, about aging, about hospitals, about family, about the things people are afraid to laugh about. He turns his pain into humor so effortlessly that the judges can't breathe from laughing. The crowd is in stitches. And yet, woven through the comedy is something deeper. Something powerful. A message: if you can still laugh, you're still living. The story continues with a 90-year-old opera singer who walks onto the stage with a posture more regal than most performers half his age. Opera is not easy. It requires lung power, stamina, control, and technique beyond belief. But when he opens his mouth, the room fills with a voice that seems impossible. Rich, deep, commanding, the kind of voice that stops time. The audience is frozen in awe. When he holds the final note, it stretches so long that the judges exchange looks of disbelief. He finishes, and the entire arena stands in thunderous applause. Decades of training condensed into minutes of brilliance. Now the video shifts into a montage of extraordinary moments. A 90-year-old painter who performs speed art so fast the audience can't believe what they're seeing. An 88-year-old drummer who hits harder than musicians a fraction of his age. A 79-year-old ventriloquist whose timing is flawless. A 96-year-old pianist who plays with such elegance that the judges forget to breathe. And then, the finale. The oldest contestant ever to appear on any Got Talent stage. 103 years old. A woman named Margaret. She enters slowly, holding the hand of her great-granddaughter. The audience cannot believe their eyes. The judges look stunned, confused, amazed all at once. Margaret smiles softly and says she is here to play the harmonica. The room falls silent. She begins playing a tune so sweet, so nostalgic, so achingly beautiful that many in the audience begin to cry without knowing why.